Chapter 91 Persuading Surrender. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When the Emperor's death came up, Shengyuan broke down, tears streaming down her face, soaking her clothes. Zhao Mu had never seen anyone cry so hard. He didn't particularly care for crying women, but he was curious how many tears she had. Other women were said to be made of water, but this queen must have been made of tears, despite her intense crying. Shengyuan didn't waste Zhao Mu's time and recounted the Zhou Emperor's experiences piece by piece. Emperor Zhou Qiuyu had been killed by Shengyuan herself. Actually, it wasn't really the emperor she killed, but Zhou Qiuyu after he'd been turned into a zombie puppet. Recently, the sinister Wang Xian had used a secret corpse poison to transform the emperor into a zombie. Wang Xian's methods were subtle. He initially wanted to completely control the emperor without anyone noticing, turning him into a puppet who only followed his orders, so he could control the great Zhou dynasty from behind the scenes. Everyone in the palace was fooled, except for Shengyuan. She was also a cultivator. Although she was only at the Qi training stage, her physique was unique. She was born with yin-yang eyes that could see through ghosts and evil spirits. When she saw the emperor, she immediately realized he was dead and only a soulless corpse remained. That was when Shengyuan wrote to Shi Rui, asking for her sister's help. Her cultivation was too weak, and she was afraid of Wang Xian. She didn't dare reveal her ability, or she would have been eliminated too. Then, events unfolded. Shi Rui returned to the palace, discovered Wang Xian's plot, and a battle erupted. While Zhao Mu and Wang Xian fought in the imperial garden, battles also raged elsewhere in the palace. The evil Wang Xian controlled Emperor Zhou Qiuyu, planning to activate the ancient royal formation beneath the palace. This formation, a 10,000-year-old royal trump card, could trap invaders and even open a sky prison deep underground, teleporting them there. Once trapped, even a Yuanying expert would struggle to escape. Realizing Zhao Mu was too powerful to handle, Wang Xian tried to imprison him by secretly controlling Zhou Qiuyu to activate the formation, but Shengyuan had been secretly watching the emperor. When he was about to activate the formation, she risked her life and stabbed him in the back of the head with a magic dagger coated in black dog blood. Her action prevented the formation's activation. Zhao Mu was secretly shocked. If Shengyuan hadn't intervened, his situation could have been far more dangerous. She'd essentially saved him. This queen was truly brave and resourceful. You're branded as a regicide and husband killer. Aren't you afraid of being cursed by the people of Zhou? Zhao Mu asked. Shengyuan replied, it was a desperate situation. I knew my sister was in the imperial garden too. I couldn't let him succeed. I had to do it, even if it meant being called a regicide. Besides, I married into the royal family and became queen at a young age, but I never loved the emperor. He'd been obsessed with refining immortality pills since he was a kid, eating them like candy. His brain was damaged. As she spoke, Zhao Mu noticed Shengyuan was sitting closer, her shoulder touching his. He noticed her red earlobes, sweating neck, and darting eyes. She seemed thirsty. Zhao Mu wasn't too surprised. His red sun holy body was attractive to women. Everyone who saw it wanted a taste. Queen, please keep your distance, Zhao Mu gently reminded. She seemed about to drool if he didn't say something. Shengyuan composed herself somewhat but couldn't take her eyes off Zhao Mu. Master, you saved my sister and the entire great Zhou dynasty. Ask for anything you need, and I'll do my best to provide it, she said, biting her lip seductively. If Zhao Mu were a young man, he might have been captivated, but Zhao Mu had seen too much to be swayed by Shengyuan's tricks, and it didn't seem intentional, more like a reflex. She must have been thirsty for a very long time. Zhao Mu said coolly, if I want to annex the great Zhou dynasty in the name of Zhao, turning it into Zhao territory, would you help me? Shengyuan shuddered, her mind clearing. She stared at Zhao Mu in disbelief. Master, are you serious? That with his strength, if he helped Zhao attack, Zhou wouldn't stand a chance. War would bring bloodshed and countless deaths. The previous emperor of Zhao was overthrown by me, and the current emperor is my father. Do you think I'm joking? Zhao Mu said sternly. Shengyuan was silent. She rapidly calculated the situation. Zhou was weakened. While a lean camel was still bigger than a horse, dealing with a small Zhao was easy enough, but Zhao Mu was too strong. Wang Xian could manipulate Zhou, but Zhao Mu had killed Wang Xian with ease. He was far more powerful. He didn't even need to help Zhao attack. A small rampage from him would decimate the Zhou royal family. A powerful cultivator fighting a country was no joke. When a strong person got angry, corpses were everywhere. Zhou couldn't risk that. With the emperor dead, she, as queen, had the right to rule until a new ruler was chosen. If she had enough support, she could even ascend the throne as empress. She had to protect her people, and surrender might be the only way to survive. Master, if Zhou surrenders to Zhao, what will happen to the royal family and the people of Zhou? The royal family will receive noble titles, and the people will be equal to those of Zhao, without distinction. Everyone will be people of Zhao. Zhao Mu wanted Zhou intact. Taking it without bloodshed would be ideal. Sherman stood and bowed. Master, give me 1 day. I'll try to persuade the royal children. I'll report back to you tomorrow, whatever the outcome. Zhao Mu nodded. If you succeed in persuading Zhou to surrender, all of Zhou's military power will be given to you. You'll answer to no one but me. Chapter 92 The Queen expresses her loyalty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Sherman left, Zhao Mu checked on Sherui. The poison that had invaded her nascent soul was completely suppressed. Though a little residue remained, the red sun power he'd left in her was enough to neutralize it. She'd be fully recovered in a day or two. With some free time, Zhao Mu pulled out Wang Xian's storage ring and rummaged through it. Besides the unidentifiable poison pills and various poison-making books, he found some other things, more than 20 high-grade spirit stones, and thousands of medium-grade ones. Not a bad haul. 20 high-grade spirit stones weren't a lot, but in Zhao Mu's hands, they could be used for power return. Practicing the pure Yang Xianming Ju burn through spirit stones, so he needed to stock up. Still, Zhao Mu wasn't desperate for them. He still had over half of the Yen Emperor blood marrow fruit, plus spiritual medicines, enough to break through to the nascent soul realm. Continuing his search, Zhao Mu was soon disappointed. Wang Xian had left himself a decent amount of capital for a comeback, but it was mostly dark stuff. Even his alchemy ingredients were just various poisons, useless to Zhao Mu. Keep it for now, he thought, might come in handy. Zhao Mu also found a bottle of poison, the same stuff used on Sherui. The poison was contained in a black jade bottle, about 2/3 full, made by killing 10,000 innocent kids. This is some truly evil stuff, but Zhao Mu couldn't just toss it. If it leaked, the toxicity could render 100 miles barren. Gotta keep this under wraps for now. Maybe I can find a use for it. Stowing the storage ring, Zhao Mu wasted no time. He took out a piece of the Yen Emperor blood marrow fruit, swallowed it, and began to refine it. He'd just broken through to the 7th level of Jindan on the way, but the Yen Emperor blood marrow fruit was too potent. His cultivation was improving too fast, leaving him feeling unstable. He hadn't truly reached the 7th level yet. Too bad there's nobody to return the power to, he thought. Otherwise, I could have fully refined and absorbed the medicinal power by brushing a wave of red sun power. Sherui was still wary of him, her favorability at only 30, far from the binding standard. Zhao Mu glanced at the system interface and saw that Zhao Qingxi's favorability was at 80. He could bind her, but she was a mortal with no cultivation and couldn't handle his red sun power. Then, Zhao Mu saw that Sherman's favorability towards him was a surprising 75, and she was a qi refining stage cultivator. Zhao Mu shook his head, not wanting to overthink it. Let it play out. Over the next day, Zhao Mu absorbed as much medicinal power as possible from the Yen Emperor blood marrow fruit, finally solidifying his 7th level of Jindan cultivation. Still, a large amount of yin-yang power accumulated in his body, needing time to slowly integrate. When he opened his eyes, it was time to meet Sherman. Boss, the Queen of Zhou is outside, asking to see you. Goe, he announced from outside the door. Right on schedule. Sounds like things are moving in the right direction. Send her in. Soon, Sherman entered. She wasn't wearing her elegant phoenix robe, but a simple white dress. No makeup, just clean and pure, like a delicate flower. Master, after my lobbying, most of the royal family has agreed to surrender to Zhao. A few princes protested, but their power is limited. I believe that if you speak to them in person, the entire royal family will fall in line. Man was excited. She thought it would be a hard sell, but it went surprisingly smoothly. Guess I underestimated how much those old royals want to survive. Surrendering meant keeping their noble status, a roof over their heads, and food on the table. Resisting, well, the consequences were clear. Zhao Mu nodded, unsurprised. What about the other sectors? Everyone's pretty eager to surrender, hoping to keep their jobs, except the military. Man paused. The military thinks Zhou has 1 million soldiers and is invincible, but they don't realize. She glanced at Zhao Mu. To him, 1 million soldiers might as well be 1 million ants. Exaggerated, sure, but not by much. Zhao Mu could kill 1 million guys, but that would take forever. The advantage of cultivators was that they have all sorts of tricks and the power of flight. Any Foundation establishment cultivator who can meet flying can easily defeat the mortal army. How many cultivators in the Zhao army? A good number, but they're all fake cultivators, created with poison pills. They won't last more than a few days. They're mostly the brave, skilled fighters. When they drop, the Zhou army will take a hit. The army can wait. A few days from now, when the poison pills run out and the soldiers start dropping, they'll get the picture. Zhao Mu said, until the official transfer, Zhou is still under your jurisdiction. When things settle down, I'll come back with my father. Be ready to welcome us and ensure a smooth handover. Man nodded. Don't worry, master. I'll do my best. I won't let you down. An obedient woman's always nice. Zhao Mu smiled. You did a good job. Ask for anything. I can make it happen. Man's eyes sparkled. She bit her lip and looked at Zhao Mu. Serving you is an honor. I wouldn't dare ask for more, but I couldn't sleep last night. Your image kept flashing in my mind. I couldn't stop thinking about you. Oh, I was gonna give you some pills, but you want me. Zhou hasn't fallen yet. As queen of the country, and the mother of its people, those aren't the kind of things you should be saying. Zhao Mu narrowed his eyes at Man. His gaze was so powerful that Man couldn't meet it. She trembled with fear. I've never slept with the emperor since our marriage, Man said, shaking. I'm still a virgin. I wouldn't dare disappoint you. Oh, Zhao Mu's interest piqued. The queen of a country is a virgin. Who's gonna believe that? You think I'm an idiot? Zhao Mu said, his face stern. Man panicked. Every word is true. If you don't believe me, you can check it yourself. In that case, Zhao Mu said, I guess I'll have to. Chapter 93 Bad Luck Pill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I still think you look amazing in the phoenix robe. It's so regal. Oh, so the immortal master likes that kind of talk. Just tell me if you want to change it or not. Be right back. 2 hours later, Zhao Mu strolled out of the palace, looking refreshed. He'd gotten lucky this time, triggering a 1,000-fold return and getting the benefit of hundreds of years of training in the Red Sun's sacred physique. All the power of Emperor Yan's blood marrow stored in his body was instantly absorbed and refined. Still, gotta say, holy body cultivation is a real grind. Zhao Mu had been boosting his holy body skill for centuries, but it still wasn't perfect, and cultivating the human emperor's bloodline. Even harder, even with the system, Zhao Mu had no clue how to improve his human emperor bloodline. Would he have to give someone a blood transfusion? But you can't just give blood away. The human emperor's bloodline is way too powerful, normal people couldn't handle it. Boss, Wang Xian's place has been searched. He had a secret underground cave on the edge of town, filled with kids' bones. It was horrifying. I've arranged for the undertaker to take care of everything. Gueha stepped forward, handed Zhao Mu a storage ring, and said, I grabbed some of Wang Xian's stuff. Mostly alchemy ingredients, highly poisonous stuff. But there's this one thing I couldn't figure out, so I brought it to you, boss. What is it? Zhao Mu asked, taking the ring. Wang Xian's nascent soul storage ring was just stuff he kept to make a comeback, so the real treasures would be elsewhere. Zhao Mu asked Gui how to find them. It's a really weird alchemy furnace. Not top of the line, but it has a very unique vibe. Zhao Mu frowned. You didn't bring back the furnace he used for those kids, did you? Relax, boss. This one's never been used. Wang Xian used a different furnace for the poison pills, and I already wrecked it. Zhao Mu opened the storage ring. A moment later, a dark, shiny alchemy furnace about half his height appeared, 5th grade magic weapon, nothing special, but like Gueha said, the furnace felt different, ancient and mysterious. It seemed to be more than it appeared to be. Zhao Mu took out some elixirs, used the red flame tyrant sutra to heat the furnace, and tossed the elixirs inside to refine them. If there was something going on, brewing some elixirs would reveal it. Alchemy was a process, and Zhao Mu kept his focus on the furnace. Just as the elixirs were almost ready, Zhao Mu felt a subtle shift in the energy. Right when the elixirs took shape, a strange aura seemed to burst from the furnace and seep into them, suddenly boosting their potency by over 20%. This furnace actually amplifies elixirs. Zhao Mu was surprised. Usually, the quality of the furnace just improved your chances of success. He'd never heard of a furnace affecting the quality of the elixirs themselves, and Zhao Mu had a feeling this amplification could get even better. Whoever made this furnace was a real character. To make something this magical with 5th grade materials, was he trying to hide his skills on purpose? Zhao Mu was thrilled to have stumbled on such a furnace and rewarded Ghost Clan with a bottle of poison elixirs. The Ghost Clan was instantly grateful. As a poison monster, Wang Xian's pills were valuable to him and could help him get stronger. Ding! You gave Gue Clam an 8th grade poison elixir, Ghost Haunting, triggering a 10,000x return reward and getting a 1st grade treasure pill, Bad Luck Pill. Ding! The Ghost Clam's loyalty has reached 100 points and is no longer using a binding slot. Zhao Mu was speechless, but of course he'd trigger a 10,000x return now. If he'd known, he would have given him something better, a 1st grade treasure pill. Well, treasure pills were always good, and cost more than similar grade pills, since they are refined from treasure medicine. Zhao Mu immediately checked out the Bad Luck Pill. System items have detailed descriptions available. Bad Luck Pill, a 1st-class treasure pill. After taking it, you will suffer a year of intense bad luck. Few people survive the day the medicine wears off. What a nasty pill, who could survive a year of that? Zhao Mu definitely wouldn't take it, but it would be perfect for getting revenge on an enemy. He'd save it for later. Junior brother Zhao. Shi Rui's voice came from inside. She was awake. Zhao Mu went in and saw Shi Rui sitting in bed, her eyes glazed over and a little slow. Had the toxins messed with her brain? Senior sister, how are you feeling? Zhao Mu asked. Shi Rui sighed. I've always wanted to find a Taoist partner who truly cared about me, to live with him, cultivating and seeking immortality together. I just never expected you would give me. Oh, never mind. Senior sister, don't try to blackmail me. I have a signed note from you. Zhao Mu was afraid she'd turn on him. Shi Rui shook her head. I'm not that unreasonable. It's just hard to believe, that's all. Anyway, you helped me and the whole Zhou kingdom this time, and I have to thank you. Actually, the Zhou kingdom is gone, Zhao Mu said. Shi Rui looked at him, shocked. Brother, didn't you defeat that evil man? I killed Wang Xian, yes, but my Zhao kingdom will absorb Zhou kingdom. There'll be no Zhou kingdom anymore, just Zhao kingdom. Does my sister know about this? She's the one who helped make it happen. She's next door. You can ask her when you can move again, but it's best not to bother her right now. Sherman was only Qi training, and her recovery wasn't great. She needed some rest. Her sister was next door. Shi Rui's expression changed. She glared at Zhao Mu and said, Junior brother Zhao, if I find out you hurt my sister, I'll never forgive you. Senior sister, you're overthinking it. I'm not that kind of guy. Sherman was practically begging me to fool around. I was just doing her a favor, but Shi Rui couldn't know about that, or she'd probably fight him to the death. He'd have to talk to Sherman later and tell her to keep quiet. It shouldn't be hard. her affection for him was already at 90. And he suspected that her and Shi Rui's favorability are not that high. Chapter 94, Bad Cousin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, after Zhao Mu was sure Shi Rui was okay, he headed back to Zhao Kingdom alone. His goal was to help his dad conquer Zhou Kingdom, and then he'd be done with the mortal world, but the world was proving to be pretty tempting. Zhao Mu felt like he was losing his grip. If he wanted, he could have it all: power, beautiful women, priceless treasures, everything at his fingertips, but that kind of life would eventually erode his will and destroy him, body and soul. It wasn't sustainable. It wasn't that Zhao Mu hated the idea of enjoying the good life. In fact, that had always been a dream of his. The catch was, you needed the strength to back it up. One Wang Xian almost took him out, and the Shenwu continent was full of guys like that. Then there was the Ghost Gate, mysterious and dangerous. At least in the Shengyuan Demon Sect, he could focus on training without worrying about getting jumped. Out in the world, some random strongman could kill him any day. Before he could fully control his own destiny, he needed to get stronger. Wouldn't it be better to wait until he was invincible and then relax and enjoy things? Until then, who cared about the beauties and riches of some kingdom? He wanted to be able to have his pick of anything in the Shenwu continent. That was the real prize. As far as Zhao Mu was concerned, as he flew along on his sword, Shi Rui suddenly came chasing after him. You just got over being sick. Why aren't you resting? Zhao Mu asked. Shi Rui shook her head. Now that the whole mortal world thing is over, I don't want to stick around. A couple of days with my family was enough. It's time to get back to the demon sect and train. After that fight with Wang Xian, I realized how weak I am. If I don't step it up, how can I protect my family? Zhao Mu nodded. She was a smart girl and they were on the same page. I need to go to Zhao Kingdom to take care of some business. It'll take a couple of days. You want to come with or head back first? Watching your kingdom get annexed doesn't sound like a good time. I'll head back to the demon sect. See you later, junior brother Zhao. When you get back, I owe you one. With that, Shi Rui hopped onto her airship and took off. She was one tough chick. She could be hard to deal with, but she wasn't a bad friend. Zhao Mu didn't try to stop her. He sped up on his sword and flew straight toward Wushuan City. It was already evening when he arrived. He flew into the palace and his family rushed out to greet him, including Zhao Qingxi. Zhao Chen, looking anxious, immediately asked how things had gone. Zhao Mu laid it all out. Zhou Kingdom was willing to surrender to Zhao Kingdom. Zhao Chen and the others couldn't believe it. Dad, you need to pull together a group of officials and generals tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'll escort you to Jinhua City to complete the transfer of power. From now on, you'll rule Zhou Kingdom as your own. There's a lot to it, so you need to work with the ministers to come up with a solid plan. Zhao Chen nodded eagerly. I'll have everyone summoned right away. Zhao Mu turned to Zhao Yu and Zhao Ji. Big brother and second brother, Dad can't stay in Jinhua City for too long. You'll need to take on more of the government duties. I want you two to be stationed in Jinhua City long term. What do you think? Whatever you think is best, third brother. By the time everything was arranged, it was late. Zhao Mu was about to find a place to refine the Yendi blood marrow fruit when Zhao Qingxi showed up at his door. Cousin, can I go to Jinhua City with you tomorrow? What for? Zhao Mu asked. Zhao Qingxi said, I've been stuck in the palace my whole life. I want to get out and see the world, so I won't be such a country bumpkin when I marry you. Zhao Mu playfully pinched her cheek. But I like you just the way you are. I'm not stupid. Zhao Qingxi snuggled against Zhao Mu's shoulder. Cousin, I know I'm not cut out for cultivation. I don't want to hold you back. I want to stay in the mortal world and take care of the family business, but I can't do much here. In Jinhua City, the stage is bigger, and I'd be more useful. Zhao Mu was surprised. He hadn't realized she thought so much about it. You really don't want to come to the sect with me to practice? Zhao Mu asked. I've thought about it, but I know what's best for me right now. I'm still young. Even as a mortal, I have decades to make a name for myself. And my talents aren't great anyway. A few years later isn't going to make that big of a difference, so why not do something that suits me better right now? Well, damn, Zhao Mu had a new respect for Zhao Qingxi. She was seeing things clearly, at such a young age. After a moment, Zhao Mu said, if that's what you want, I'm behind you. But you can't slack off on training. I'll provide you with resources to help improve your spiritual roots. If you can become a cultivator on your own, you can come to the sect with me, okay? Whatever you say, cousin. Zhao Qingxi laid on Zhao Mu's chest, as obedient and docile as a kitten. Zhao Mu patted her head. It's late. Why don't you stay here with me? Okay, but you're not allowed to mess with me. Zhao Mu laughed. Of course not. I love you too much to do that. The next morning, Zhao Mu woke up to find Zhao Qingxi in his arms, tears on her face, and couldn't help but blame himself. Zhao Mu, you dog, Zhao Qingxi woke up at that moment, and after glaring at him with resentment, she angrily bit him on the shoulder. Zhao Mu didn't feel any pain, but he faked it to appease her. Cousin, you're the worst. At sunrise, the Zhao family and a large group of officials and generals gathered outside the north gate. Zhao Mu arrived with Zhao Qingxi on his back. After confirming everything, he began escorting the group north to Jinhua City. Traveling by carriage wasn't as fast as flying by sword. Even on horseback, it would take at least 3 or 4 days to cover the 2,000 miles, assuming they traveled at full speed the whole time, but Zhao Mu wasn't in a rush. He figured he'd just enjoy the road trip with his family. Chapter 95: A Visitor from the Ghost Sect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was a real pleasure to be on the road. 5 days later, Zhao Mu and his crew finally rolled into Jinhua City. Sherman, who'd heard they were coming, immediately led the city officials out to the south gate to give them a proper welcome. It was a huge reception, like 1,000 people strong, with almost every big shot in the Zhou kingdom showing up. Talk about making an entrance. Zhao Qin couldn't help but feel a wave of emotion. The great Zhou dynasty, which he used to look up to, was now basically becoming a vassal state of Zhao. It was almost too good to be true, but the feeling didn't last long. Zhao Qin quickly snapped back to reality. He'd had a lot of talks with Zhao Mu over the past few days, and he was starting to get a real sense of just how powerful cultivators could be. Being a king in a regular dynasty might seem all-powerful and majestic, but it only lasted 100 years, tops. And when you got old and tired, all the glory and wealth would just disappear. True immortality, that was the real deal. If Zhao Qin didn't have any talent for cultivation, he probably wouldn't have thought about it so much, but aside from Zhao Mu, he was the only cultivator in the whole Zhao family. Sure, he only had the foundation building level, and he got there through some shady methods, but at least he had a chance to chase immortality. Zhao Qin had already made up his mind. He'd still handle things for the next few years, but when the world was stable, he'd gradually pass the power on to his 2 sons, Zhao Yu and Zhao Ji, and retire behind the scenes to cultivate. No matter how far he got, at least he tried, and he wouldn't have any regrets later. Plus, he had a super capable son who'd be sending him cultivation resources in the future. Why wouldn't he take advantage of that? Queen Sherman of Zhou greets King Zhao. Sherman stepped forward, leading the officials, and bowed to welcome Zhao Qin. I've heard so much about Zhou's Queen Sherman, how talented and beautiful she is. Seeing you now, it's all true, Zhao Qin said. Sherman smiled, glanced at Zhao Mu, and said, King Zhao, you're too kind. Compared to Master Zhao, I'm just a firefly in the forest. How could I ever compare to the bright sun? The only reason I'm worthy to stand here is thanks to Master Zhao's appreciation. When Zhao Qin heard that, a red flag went up. The way the Queen of Zhou was looking at Zhao Mu had a little something extra in it. Even though Zhao Qin had only been emperor for a couple of days, he was a shrewd guy, especially since he was the king of Beichen. He could see what was going on. This kid was playing a dangerous game. Zhao Mu just rolled his eyes. Thank goodness Zhao Qingxi was too innocent to get it. Sherman was being super bold. She was doing it on purpose, right? She'd have to deal with the consequences later. After they got into the city, things got even more complicated. Officials from both sides had to start negotiating the handover, and the Zhou royal family had to transfer power. There were a million things to do, and every detail had to be hammered out. By the end of the day, the Zhao father and son were completely wiped. Meanwhile, Zhao Mu had snuck Zhao Qingxi away to go shopping and grab some good food. They were supposed to leave for the Shengyuan Demon Sect the next day, and Zhao Qingxi knew it, so she was making the most of their time together, being super clingy. She really didn't want to be apart from him. The romance had Zhao Mu completely smitten. He almost wanted to just stay there for a year or two, but then he thought about the responsibilities he had, and he steeled his resolve. He had to head back the next day. For the first half of the night, Zhao Mu was as gentle as a breeze, giving Zhao Qingxi a memory she'd never forget. For the second half of the night, Zhao Mu was tough and left Sherman a deep lesson. The next morning, Zhao Mu took advantage of Zhao Qingxi still being asleep and got ready to leave for the Demon Sect. This time, Zhao Mu was going back solo. Gui He, Zhu Zhao, and Xiong Xia were staying with Zhao Chen for the time being. To lend a hand, the mortal dynasty was too fragile, and Zhao Mu would feel better knowing the 3 Yuanying demons were secretly protecting it. Plus, Gui He and the other 2 were 100% loyal to him. They were totally committed and wouldn't ever betray him. If the Zhao state was in trouble, they'd be ready to die for it. Before he left, Zhao Mu suddenly thought about Zhao Qiuyan. He promised to help Zhao Qiuyan find his descendants, but 8,000 years had passed. It definitely wasn't a task he could just knock out overnight. After thinking about it, Zhao Mu just decided to hand the job over to his second brother, Zhao Ji. He knew the records of the Grand Historian, had a great memory, and knew a lot about the history of Zhao state, so he should be able to help Zhao Qiuyan. After taking care of that last thing, Zhao Mu hopped on his sword and flew into the clouds. He looked back at Jinhua City under the morning light and said to himself, after we split up this time, who knows when we'll see each other again. He took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and the sword shot through the sky like a meteor, disappearing over the horizon. Flying at full speed, he could hit the 10,000 monsters forest in one day and then get to the Shengyuan Demon Sect in another half day. It wasn't a long trip. Zhao Mu's spirits lifted a little. If he had some free time, it wouldn't be hard to go back home. He could probably swing a visit once or twice a year. A day passed in a flash. In front of Zhao Mu was an endless dark green ocean. Countless trees towered, all packed together to form a forest. On the way there, Zhao Mu had been practicing on the air boat, so he hadn't really taken in the scenery. But now, the 10,000 monsters forest looked pretty surreal. As night fell, the faint light from some of the glowing plants in the forest made it look really mysterious. If you didn't think about the generations of fighting between humans and demons, and just looked at the forest, Zhao Mu actually really liked it. Alright, let's set a small goal, turn this forest into my territory. That with the system at his disposal, Zhao Mu didn't think it was too crazy of a goal. Of course, it wasn't something that was going to happen anytime soon, but you have to have dreams, right? Hey, hold on a second. Just as Zhao Mu flew over a super tall tree on his sword, he heard someone call out to him. Zhao Mu stopped, curious, and looked toward the voice. He saw a one-eyed old man lying on a tree trunk. The old man was holding a wine gourd and looked like he'd had a few. You could smell the booze on him from 100 meters away. The old man had a strong presence and looked to be in the nascent soul stage. Zhao Mu was careful and called out, "Is there something I can help you with?" Burp. The old man belched, stretched, and sat up. He rubbed the wine gourd and said, "Did you kill Wang Xian?" Zhao Mu was shocked. The Ghost Sect got here fast. So what if I did? Are you here to get revenge? Zhao Mu didn't deny it. The old man was obviously waiting for him to show up there. His location was definitely compromised. There was no point in trying to hide it. The other guy wasn't totally sure, or he wouldn't have bothered hanging out there, and Zhao Mu didn't pick up on any murderous intent from the old man. It seemed like he wanted something else. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said anything. He would have just tried to ambush him. Chapter 96, Ice Girl in the Coffin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The old guy cracked open his wine gourd and took a swig, a huge grin spreading across his face. They call me the drunken sage. Usually, I'm happy without booze, but today, after a few drinks, I'm feeling good, real good. Wouldn't hurt a fly. Zhao Mu scoffed. Or is it you sized me up and figured you couldn't hurt me, so you're making excuses? This young man. The drunken sage shook his head. No need to get your dander up. I am here because of Wang Xian, but the Ghost Sect has rules. Once you step into the ring, it's life or death. His skills weren't up to snuff, he had it coming. I just happened to be in the neighborhood, heard about Wang Xian's demise, and got curious about who pulled it off. Wang Xian's cultivation wasn't anything special, but he always had lady luck on his side. He'd been offed by bigger fish a few times before, but his nascent soul always managed to slip away and get reborn. This time, though, he's really pushing up daisies, nascent soul and all. I'm intrigued. When I clapped eyes on you, kid, I picked up on a unique vibe. If I'm reading the tea leaves right, you've got the holy body of the Red Sun. That kind of power is the kryptonite to toxic evil. Wang Xian kicked the bucket because of you, he was sunk. After the old man's windbag speech, Zhao Mu's eyes began to give death stares. Spit it out already. If you're thinking of recruiting me into the Ghost Sect, save your breath. Hard pass. The drunken sage threw back his head and guffawed. Young blood, so impatient. Recruitment ain't my department, so chill. The drunken sage came to you to ask a favor. Nope, no thanks. Zhao Mu didn't even bother listening, already reaching for his jade slip to jet, who knows what this old coot is cooking up. He probably had a trap laid, waiting for Zhao Mu to walk right into it. I won't eat up more than a cup of tea's worth of your time. And when the job's done, I'll pony up a Taoist weapon as a thank you. A Taoist weapon? Zhao Mu slammed on the brakes, spun around, and said, all right, spill it. The drunken sage knew Zhao Mu was still suspicious, so he cut to the chase. With a thunk, he conjured a coffin made of fire-grained wood from his storage ring. Zhao Mu zeroed in on it and saw a young girl lying inside, only, she looked like an ice sculpture, encased in a thick sheet of frost. Intriguing, fire-grained wood is a natural treasure, overflowing with yang energy and radiating scorching heat. Toss it into a lake, and the whole thing would boil dry. And the heat would last for ages, yet, even inside a coffin crafted from the stuff, the girl was still frozen solid. That's some serious cold mojo. Zhao Mu was starting to get the picture. This drunken sage probably wanted to tap into the power of his red sun to melt the ice. As you can see, this young lady has been poisoned by the chilling soul of Tianyin. The drunken sage and I have scoured every nook and cranny of the Shenwu continent, collecting any and all sun-related artifacts to counteract the poison, but it's barely scratched the surface. Your red sun holy body is the only thing we have not tried. Zhao Mu asked, who is this girl? That's above your pay grade. But I can tell you, she's somebody special. The blood in her veins could turn the whole Shenwu continent upside down. Real mysterious, huh? Sounds like a load of bull to me. Zhao Mu wasn't buying the drunken sage's line. The drunken sage shrugged. Believe what you want. All you gotta do is pump out a little of that red sun power to dissolve the poison, and you're walking away with a Taoist artifact. Sounds like a win-win to me. And if it doesn't work? I'll still give you the Taoist weapon. Zhao Mu chewed on that for a moment, deciding it was a gamble worth taking, but he'd still play it safe. Put down the coffin and the Taoist artifact, then back off 10 miles and wait for half an hour before coming back. That's my price. Take it or leave it. The drunken sage frowned, looking like he'd sucked on a lemon. But after a beat, he nodded. You're not to lay a scratch on the girl, understand? Otherwise, I'll hunt you down to the ends of the earth. That with that, he set down the coffin and produced a magic item shaped like a flying disc. This is the second-grade Taoist weapon, Tiangang Wheel. When deployed, it turns into a shield. The defense is something else. As long as you've got the juice to power it, it's tougher than nails. I've already wiped the slate clean, so you can imprint it at your whim. After one last look at the girl in the coffin, the drunken sage bolted 10 miles away. Once he was sure the drunken sage was out of sight, Zhao Mu cautiously approached the coffin. First, he got a good look at the girl inside. The thick ice couldn't hide her knockout looks. She was drop-dead gorgeous, even more so than in Zishuan and Kong Miaoying, but she was as cold as ice. Zhao Mu tested the Taoist artifact, and after giving it a clean bill of health, he pocketed it. Then came the task of dealing with the girl. He reached out and touched the ice. A bone-chilling cold instantly shot up his arm. Even that quick touch left a layer of frost on his hand. Zhao Mu instantly revved up the power of the red sun, the yang energy pushing back the chill. Talk about nasty poison. Wonder who was behind it. Zhao Mu's eyes narrowed. He focused the red sun's heat in his palm and reached out again. Extreme cold met burning heat. Zhao Mu's red sun holy body held firm, quickly melting the ice layer on the surface. Effective. Zhao Mu cranked up the power, pouring the full force of the red sun into the coffin. After about 10 minutes, the ice was gone. The drunken sage, watching from afar, couldn't help but look surprised. Melting the ice had taken a toll on Zhao Mu. He swallowed a pill to get his energy back. You can come back now. Zhao Mu was about to call the drunken sage back when his face suddenly went white. He looked down and saw a pale hand reaching out from the coffin, clamping down on his arm. A wave of bitter cold surged forward, threatening to overwhelm him. At the last second, Zhao Mu's red sun flared up, blasting the cold away. At the same time, the girl snapped upright in the coffin, her stiff body making a strange sound. Zhao Mu was officially freaked out. The drunken sage came racing back. Miss, no. Hearing his words, the girl slowly turned her head, her neck creaking like an old door. It's you. She spoke, her voice as cold as a glacier. Enough with the family reunion, can you let go of me? Zhao Mu's face was beet red, straining to keep the cold at bay. Not your choice. The drunken sage suddenly let out a creepy laugh and flashed behind Zhao Mu, raising his wine gourd, ready to crack him over the head. Damn. You can't trust anyone from the Ghost Sect. Chapter 97 Breakthrough to the 10th level of Jindan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhao Mu thought he was being careful, but Jiumengzi still got the drop on him. The wine gourd was about to smash him in the head, and the girl in the coffin had a death grip on his arm. He couldn't break free. Desperate, Zhao Mu dove forward, pinning the girl as they both tumbled into the coffin. Unlucky, yeah, but no time to worry about that now. The coffin shielded him from Jiumengzi's attack, but the old guy wasn't giving up. He swung the wine gourd again, aiming to shatter the coffin. Zhao Mu flipped them over, using the girl as a shield. Jiumengzi, not wanting to hurt her, immediately stopped his swing. Kid, I didn't want to do this, but the young lady's secret is top secret. Can't risk it getting out. So, to keep things quiet, I gotta shut you up permanently. Clang, Jiumengzi slid the coffin lid shut, trapping Zhao Mu inside. You sneaky old coot. Locking me in here? You afraid I'll get fresh with your precious young lady? Zhao Mu yelled. Jiumengzi patted the coffin lid. Just stay still, kid. If the lady gets riled up, trust me, it'll be the worst thing you've ever seen. Then, the sound faded away, like Jiumengzi had taken the coffin somewhere else. Zhao Mu tapped into his red sun power, lighting up the space inside. The girl was lying on her side, staring right at him, eyes wide open. She wasn't blinking, wasn't moving. Zhao Mu's hair stood on end. Creepy. At least she'd let go of his arm, so he could move again. He braced his hands against the inside of the coffin lid, strained, and pushed with all his might. Nope. Whatever kind of spell was on that lid, it was as solid as gold. It wouldn't budge. Zhao Mu gave up, exhausted. He couldn't even lift it a millimeter. Guess I got too greedy, he sighed. Tried to grab a Taoist artifact and ended up in the crapper. Zhao Mu chuckled humorlessly, turning to look at the girl. Weird as she was definitely gorgeous. It'd be a blessing to be buried with a stunner like that, he thought. Whoa, snap out of it. Zhao Mu shook his head and scowled at the girl. Let's see if you're as evil as Jiumengzi says. That he reached out and boldly pinched her cheek, ice cold. He was ready for that. He kept channeling his red sun power, trying to keep the coffin warm and keep the cold from freezing him, but the girl's coldness seemed to be bone deep. he pinched her face a few times, but she didn't react, so he got even bolder and started feeling around. Her forehead felt like touching a human-shaped ice sculpture. Not enough heat. Zhao Mu pulled out a piece of flame emperor blood marrow fruit and gulped it down. A wave of intense heat surged through him. He grabbed the girl and pulled her close, using his body heat to try and melt her icy core. At first, it was just a random idea, but Zhao Mu quickly realized that suppressing her cold poison was making him absorb the blood marrow fruit way faster. With this ice queen next to him, Zhao Mu didn't have to worry about the fruit's medicinal power messing up his meridians. He could go all out, so, Zhao Mu pulled out all the remaining blood marrow fruit and swallowed them too. Hiss, star, even prepared, Zhao Mu still flushed and broke into a sweat. The temperature inside the coffin skyrocketed. The girl's icy aura was suppressed, and her skin started to feel more normal. Was she starting to thaw? Zhao Mu didn't have time to worry about that. He closed his eyes and focused on absorbing the blood marrow fruit, hoping to break through to the nascent soul realm. Stuck in this mess, he needed to get stronger, fast, but the blood marrow fruit wasn't quite enough. Zhao Mu took out every last spirit stone and enhancement pill he had, spending them like a madman. He practically emptied his bank account and only barely made it to the 10th level of pill formation. Still a long way from the 10th level of Dzogchen, and even further from nascent soul. 10th level of pill formation, that's all I could manage. Zhao Mu sighed, disappointed. Still, absorbing all the power from the blood marrow fruit meant the 8th grade elixir had fully merged with him. He could feel his yang energy surging, overflowing, like it would never run out. The biggest boost, though, was to his fire spirit root. That's when he got it. The blood marrow fruit was all about buffing your fire spirit root. His wasn't bad to begin with, but not bad wasn't good enough for Zhao Mu. Upgrading to the best fire spirit root would be a huge advantage. Ding. Congratulations, host. Fire spirit root upgraded to top grade. Star, the system chimed in. Zhao Mu grinned, but was still a little bummed. He hadn't made it to top grade spirit root. Guess you gotta take it one step at a time. Top grade this time, supreme next time, right? With the upgraded fire spirit root, Zhao Mu could feel his burning flame palm and red flame tyrant sutra getting a serious power boost. The fire energy flowed through his body smoother, more efficiently. Ha! Zhao Mu exhaled a hot breath and realized a whole day had gone by, and he was still stuck in the coffin, with no idea what was going on outside, or where that drunk Jiumengzi was taking him. Zhao Mu turned to look at the girl. She was asleep now, eyes closed, face peaceful, and, most importantly, she wasn't cold anymore. Her body was soft and springy, like she'd finally thawed. Zhao Mu reached out and pinched her cheek again. This time, she snapped her eyes open. Pinched enough yet? That her tone was ice cold. That did it. Zhao Mu lost it. Instead of letting go, he reached out with his other hand. He grabbed her face and pulled. Locked up in this coffin for a whole day. I helped you thaw out. What's wrong with messing with you a little? Don't give me that look. If you've got a problem, take it up with that drunk. He treats you like a queen, but I don't. Bang, A loud noise came from outside. Then, Zhao Mu felt weightless. The coffin felt like it was plummeting from way up high. Chapter 98 Goddess Hongdou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With a thud, the coffin hit the ground. The thing about that fire-patterned wood coffin, though, was that it was built tough. It didn't even crack after the fall, leaving Zhao Mu still stuck inside. The impact rattled him pretty good, and Zhao Mu almost lost his lunch. After a while, he finally came to. When he opened his eyes, he found the girl lying on top of him in a compromising position. Ugh, are you getting back at me? Feeling completely at her mercy, Zhao Mu didn't dare twitch. Gross. The girl scrambled away, trying to put some distance between them, but the coffin was too cramped. She couldn't get away, so she just ended up pressed against Zhao Mu. What's going on out there? Sounds like Jiumengzi got jumped. Zhao Mu frowned, figuring whatever it was, it couldn't be good. The girl didn't say anything, didn't seem to care about anything. She just curled up, hugging her knees like she was building a wall around herself. Zhao Mu, not wanting to deal with it, was about to pull out his flying sword and try to pry the coffin open when he heard footsteps approaching. Then, the coffin rocked again, like someone was setting it upright. Yep, this is the one. Persistence pays off. We finally found the goddess. It's sealed tight. There are layers of formations on this coffin. Don't sweat it. We'll take the whole thing back to the high priest. Mission accomplished. Then, everything went quiet again. Sounds like someone hauled the coffin away. Were they really getting robbed? Did Jumengzi get killed? Zhao Mu was confused. The whole day had been one bizarre event after another, but one thing was for sure, it all had something to do with the girl with him. They called you goddess and said they were taking you to some high priest. Sounds like a cult to me, Zhao Mu said. The girl stayed silent. You should at least tell me your name. Mine's Zhao Mu, disciple of the Shengyuan Demon Sect. Why are you playing deaf? You talked just fine when you met Jumengzi. Still not gonna talk, huh? Don't blame me for getting rough. Zhao Mu suddenly reached down and grabbed the girl's ankle, tickling her white and tender foot. The girl finally lost it, glaring at Zhao Mu with pure disgust. Why are you such a chatterbox? You're about to die, and you still can't shut up. You. Furious, Zhao Mu kicked his legs, hooked her neck, yanked her in front of him, wrapped an arm around her waist, grabbed her neck with the other hand, and said, You better tell me what's going on, or, I swear, even if I'm about to kick the bucket, I'm taking you down with me. Seeing the fire in Zhao Mu's eyes, the girl couldn't help but crack up. Alright, since fate threw us together, I'll tell you. My name is Hongdou, and I'm the goddess of the Ghost Sect. The high priest says my Ghost Sect is the reincarnation of the gods they worship. The Ghost Sect found me in some backwater village in Zhao State and bought me from my parents for 500 gold taels. That was over 10 years ago. For the last 10 years, they've been force-feeding me pills and teaching me all sorts of weird stuff. They're trying to awaken some godhood in me, but it never works. Not long ago, I got someone to help me sneak out of the Ghost Sect. But the high priest was too smart. He knew I might try to bolt, so he made me take the Huangquan pill beforehand. After I left, the pill went off and put me on ice. Oh, great. The only thing Zhao Mu was sure about was that this Ghost Sect was definitely a cult. What's the connection between the Ghost Sect and the Guidao Sect? The Ghost Sect is just an organization under the Guidao Sect. So, after all that, he still ended up in the hands of the Guidao Sect? Zhao Mu sighed. He hadn't expected killing that king fairy to cause so much trouble. Xiao Hongdou, do you know how strong the Ghost Sect is? Zhao Mu asked. He was trapped now, no way out. They were definitely taking him to the Ghost Sect. And once they opened the coffin, he was probably facing a fight for his life. He needed to get the lowdown on the Ghost Sect, fast, but he waited, and Hongdou didn't answer. Zhao Mu glanced down and saw her staring at him with this weird look. What? Don't tell me you've been in the Ghost Sect for 10 years and you don't know jack about it. No. It's just that no one's called me that name in a long time. I suddenly miss home. Seriously? Now's the time to get sentimental. Hongdou sighed and said, Of course I know about the Ghost Sect, but why should I tell you? They locked me up and kept me from running. It's no different than the last 10 years of my life, so why should I care about your life or death? Damn, she had a point. Zhao Mu's mind started racing, and he said, You're from Zhao State, and so am I. I'm actually the Prince of Zhao right now. So, technically, you're one of my people. Don't you think you should help me out, that even though Zhao Qin had just taken the throne and hadn't picked an heir yet, if Zhao Mu decided he wanted to be the crown prince, who was going to argue? Crown prince, but you can't even protect your own people. Why should I help you? Ouch, she wasn't wrong. Zhao Mu was stumped. This little Hongdou was a tough nut to crack. Her favorability was probably in the toilet. Zhao Mu glanced at the system interface without thinking, but his jaw dropped when he saw it. Hongdou, Reincarnated God Clan, Yuanying 3rd level, favorability 65, can be bound. 65 points of favorability. Seriously? From just a few words. Where did that even come from? But thinking about it, it kind of made sense. After all, they'd been crammed together in this box for over a day now, and he'd helped her fight off the cold poison. The girl was tough, but she still had a soft spot for Zhao Mu. Without another thought, Zhao Mu immediately chose Hongdou as the return binding object. After the binding was successful, Zhao Mu pulled out the second-grade Taoist Tiangang wool that he'd gotten from Jiumengzi and handed it to Hongdou. This is the most valuable thing I have on me. Here, take it. That should show you I'm serious. This is a real Taoist weapon, and it hasn't been messed with. You're really going to give it to me? Hongdou looked shocked. Zhao Mu sighed. Hey, I'm probably not going to be around much longer anyway. No matter how valuable a treasure is, it'll be wasted on me. Hongdou took the Tiangang wheel, thought for a moment, and said, I'm still suffering from the yellow spring poison, so I can't do much to help. I can give you a general overview of the Ghost Sect, though. Whether you escape or not is up to you. That's all I need. Zhao Mu heard the pleasant system notifications and smirked. Ding, you give out the second-grade Taoist Tiangang wheel, triggering an 8,000-fold return, and obtain the 6th-grade Taoist weapon, Great Wuxian Guardian Golden Body. Chapter 99 Red Beans Grow in the South. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Great Formless Guardian Golden Body, huh? Zhao Mu knew that was some Buddhist secret technique. They always said an indestructible golden body could wash away any sin, and formlessness was a cool Buddhist concept, too, like, seeing the real deal by ditching all the worldly junk. This weapon felt like it was crafted by a Buddhist disciple, but whatever, magic weapons are just tools. Really, all that mattered was that this guardian thing was supposed to be a seriously tough defensive weapon in a close-quarters fight. A 6th-grade Taoist weapon. No joke. With this thing protecting him, Zhao Mu's survival rate would definitely go way up, and the system's rewards had another perk, no need to refine them. You could use them right out of the box, unlike the Tiangang wheel, which took time and effort to refine, and even then, you might not unlock its full potential right away. Without a word, Zhao Mu pulled out the great formless guardian golden body. It was a golden gauze, so thin it was practically weightless. Zhao Mu focused, and the gauze clung to him, covering every inch of his skin, even his eyeballs, like he was dipped in gold. Then, a moment later, the gauze merged with his body, invisible. To the naked eye, Hongdou didn't notice anything. She just figured Zhao Mu had put up some kind of shield. She started filling him in on the Ghost Sect. They had been around for ages, tens of thousands of years, but they'd always been small-time, working underground. At most, a few hundred followers. It wasn't until the Ghost Sect took them under their wing a century ago that they started to grow. Now, Ghost Sect mainly operated in the Kuaishan kingdoms. The Kuaishan kingdoms were a secular world thousands of miles north of the Zhou kingdom. It was all noble houses and warlords, with hundreds of factions fighting all the time. The constant war left people poor and homeless, perfect breeding ground for a cult like Ghost Sect. With the Ghost Sect's backing, Ghost Sect became the biggest sect in the Kuaishan kingdoms, drawing in millions of believers from the common folk and becoming the most powerful force there. The Ghost Sect's main base is near Kuaishan Mountain. The core believers are all cultivators, over 200 of them. The Grand Priest is in charge. He's a Huashan realm powerhouse. Under him are 3 priests, the Judgment Priest, the Fortune Priest, and the Samsara Priest. They're all at the peak of the Yuanying realm, and they're seriously nasty. The Judgment Priest especially, he's a cannibal. He eats believers who break the rules. I think he's a Taotai demon cultivator from the 10,000 Monsters Forest. Below the priests, there are a bunch of elite believers, mostly in the Jindan realm, plus a few more Yuanying cultivators. 1 Huashan, 3 Yuanying peaks, several Yuanying, 200 Jindan. Zhao Mu sized it up, getting a feel for the Ghost Sect's overall strength, nowhere near the Shengyuan Demon Sect, of course, but taking on the Ghost Sect alone would be tough, unless he could break through to the nascent soul stage. We'll see what happens when we get there. I promise to get you out, and I will. But if things get too hairy, I'm ditching you and bailing first, then figuring out how to rescue you later. Zhao Mu said, laying it on the line. Hongdou shook her head. No way. I can't just trust you. What if you run off and leave me stranded? I swear on my good name. Don't give me that. I wasn't born yesterday. Hongdou thought for a second. I know a way to get you into the Ghost Sect safely. How? Pretend to be my son, Hongdou blurted out. What? Zhao Mu was lost. You wanted him to pretend to be her man, and he could almost live with that, but her son. What, did she have a baby on her that was already 6 feet tall? Hongdou explained, the goddess has a special thing going on. She can give birth and pass stuff down. When she's about to die, she'll pop out a new embryo and pass on some of her godliness to keep the spirit alive. I ran away from the Ghost Sect almost a year ago. The high priest should buy it. Was this just some special thing? Zhao Mu was speechless. What kind of messed up gods did the Ghost Sect worship? Or were these people just seriously out of their minds? So, my growing up to be a 6'3", 150-pound guy a few days after being born is totally normal. The son of God's got a special thing going on too. Since he gets the God stuff, he's born with a mature mind and body. It's a sign he's special. Regular folks might not get it, but the Ghost Sect are a bunch of nutjobs. They'll go for it. Wow. Just wow. Zhao Mu still wasn't sure if it was going to work, but, it did sound kind of funny, Zhao Mu said, so I'm your son now. What do I call myself? Nangua. Hongdou was born in the south, right? Zhao Mu didn't know what to say. I'm your son all of a sudden. I feel like I'm getting ripped off, Zhao Mu mumbled. Hongdou said, the son of God is supposed to be really good at cultivation. To check you out, the Ghost Sect will give you a ton of resources to see what you can do. If you show some promise, they'll believe you and maybe even make you the new boss. I'm in. But when Zhao Mu heard about the free resources, his face lit up. Whether it blew up in their faces or not, he'd get some free stuff out of the Ghost Sect first. If he could use the chance to break through to the nascent soul realm, that would be huge. Hongdou smiled. Alright, call me Mom first. Mom, I'm hungry. I want milk. Cut it out. Or Mommy's gonna smack you. Hongdou's face went red, and she covered her chest. But the coffin was so small she couldn't hide. Hongdou's face got even redder as she felt Zhao Mu's hot breath on her. Her eyes got all misty, and she looked really hot. Zhao Mu grinned and reached out, slowly wrapping his arm around her waist, teasing her skin. Knock it off. Suddenly, Hongdou's expression changed, and a faint purple light burst out of her. Her eyes looked holy, and a red lotus mark appeared between her eyebrows, like she was possessed. The sudden burst of power was so intense that Zhao Mu fainted on the spot. Chapter 100 Asking the Son of God to Bath. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I have no idea how much time passed, but when Zhao Mu woke up, he wasn't in the coffin anymore. He was in a room made of jade. Around the big, soft bed, several young girls dressed as maids stood silently with their heads down. They looked about 15 or 16. When they noticed Zhao Mu was awake, one of them quietly turned and left, probably to report the news. Zhao Mu rubbed his head, which was still throbbing. But he didn't seem to have any injuries. He tried to remember what happened before he passed out, and a wave of shock hit him. Could Hongdou have been telling the truth? Was she really the reincarnation of some god? How else could you explain that holy aura that exploded from her? Maybe there really was a god soul hidden inside her. Unbelievable. Is this the Ghost Sect? Zhao Mu asked the nearest maid as he sat up, but all the maids stayed quiet and didn't even dare to look up. Zhao Mu realized they looked scared stiff, but he couldn't figure out why. Zhao Mu went to get up but realized he was stark naked. Even the dragon tendon armor Shengyuan had given him was gone. However, the golden body of the great formless protector was still there. That magic weapon was completely hidden under his skin. It was so well concealed it couldn't be easily found. Could someone get me some clothes? Zhao Mu asked awkwardly, clutching the quilt around him. Even he felt exposed, mostly because there were young women around. Otherwise, Zhao Mu wouldn't have cared. but no matter what he said, the maids kept their mouths shut and stayed put. Zhao Mu had no choice but to wrap himself in the quilt and try to get out of bed. Before he could take a step, the maid blocked his way. "Please, don't move. The high priest will be here shortly." Restricting his freedom, huh? Was this how they treated their son of God? He hoped Hongdou's plan was solid. Since the maid called him Shensi, he'd obviously infiltrated the Ghost Sect as the son of God. But Hongdou wasn't around, and Zhao Mu was in the dark about the current situation. He wasn't sure if he could pull this off. Not wanting to make things harder for the maids, Zhao Mu climbed back into bed and closed his eyes. Pretending to rest, he waited. About half an hour later, he heard footsteps outside the door. Zhao Mu opened his eyes and saw a tall woman in red robes enter the room. Her skin was snow-white, and she had a holy vibe. This woman was incredibly tall, easily over 6 feet, with a long, elegant neck. You couldn't see her legs under the robe, but the way the fabric draped gave a hint of her imposing figure. "Greetings, great priest." The maids bowed and left the room. Was this the high priest Hongdou had mentioned? And she was a woman. "Son of God, no need to be nervous. The goddess has told me everything. Your identity still requires further confirmation, but the Ghost Sect is loyal to the faith. You can trust us completely." The high priest walked over to Zhao Mu, picked up a set of fancy clothes and placed them on the bedside. "Please bathe and change first. I'll have food and spiritual treasures brought to you later. Until then, rest." Just like Hongdou said, free training resources. "Where's my mother? I want to see her," Zhao Mu said. He had to play the part of a newborn baby. The first thing a baby would do is look for its mother. Figuring out a character's motivations was acting 101, the high priest smiled. "The goddess isn't feeling well. She needs rest. When she's recovered, I'll take you to see her." "Yeah, right. Oh, wait." She was humoring him like a kid. After a few more words, the high priest left. Right away, several maids came back and started bustling around the room. They quickly heated a tub of hot water, and 2 of the maids approached Zhao Mu. "Please bathe, Lord Son of God." Zhao Mu blinked. "You're going to help me?" "Yes, Lord Son of God." Was this some kind of perk? Then, Zhao Mu realized it was probably a test from the high priest. He was supposed to be a baby, after all. Even if he looked like an adult, his mind should be a blank slate, with no lustful thoughts. The bath was just an excuse. The high priest was probably trying to see if he had any inappropriate interests. Good thing he caught on. Otherwise, he'd have blown his cover. Zhao Mu nodded. "Then, I appreciate the help." He pulled back the covers and got out of bed. The maid stared, stunned. With Lord Shensi's body, was he really just a child? Under the maid's care, Zhao Mu took a relaxing bath. At least, that's how it looked. Keeping his Qiang power under control took serious effort. When the young ladies were drying him off, he nearly lost it. Most cultivators had better self-control than Zhao Mu. He hadn't been training long enough, and the Red Sun holy physique was all about violence and dominance. He was used to doing what he wanted, so suppressing himself wasn't in its nature. The fact that he could even endure it was progress. After the bath, Zhao Mu breathed a sigh of relief as the maids helped him dress. A little later, the food arrived. It was quite a spread. The fruit was all high-end spiritual stuff, and the meat was from a Yuanying-level monster. For most cultivators, this would have been a feast, but Zhao Mu wasn't impressed. He'd eaten real dragon meat. This stuff didn't do it for him. Still, he was supposed to be a baby with a big appetite, so Zhao Mu ate like a champ, making a mess and not worrying about appearances. The maids watched with wide eyes, recording his every move and reporting back to the high priest every so often. Zhao Mu had expected it, so he didn't care. After he ate and drank his fill, a maid brought in another tray. On it were 3 storage devices. The first was filled with mountains of spirit stones. They were all low-grade, but in that quantity, they'd be worth a fortune. The second was packed with elixirs of all kinds, mostly 5th grade or higher, weighing hundreds of pounds, spiritual medicine by the pound. That was insane. The third contained a pile of books. There were manuals on martial arts, magic skills, and secret scriptures passed down by the Ghost Sect. Please practice at your leisure, Lord Son of God. We'll be outside the door. Shout if you need anything, the maid said with deep bows before leaving. They're going to test my talent by locking me up, huh? Perfect. Exactly what I want. Zhao Mu smirked. With this many free resources, he'd be a fool not to use this chance to break into the nascent soul realm.